All right. We're now at number 4 on the agenda. Would someone like to move the consent agenda as laid out? Moved by Director Stoner, seconded by Director Hoppel. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Anything to call?
Yeah, no.
Or businesses are rising.
Can I make a comment?
Does it influence the change? Would it change? No?
No, just a
Okay.
comment.
Sure.
Some really good correspondence for information
Mhm.
this time. There's several of them that I was looking at and reading.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, so we're now at. So there was no business arising. Electoral Area Director Committee recommendations from November 5th. And this is a request for decision regarding a notice on title in Area A. And we have Claire here. Hello. Over to you.
Thank you. My name is Claire Dew. I'm a senior planner at the Squamish-Lillooet Regional District and acting director for Miss Needham. I would like to just share some information to go along with this cover report. In that the SLRD building bylaw does include a permit extension process, which currently allows for the building official to extend the permit, which is currently 3 years, so they can apply for an extension for another 2-year period. So that would provide for a total of 12 years under the current, or sorry, 5 years under the current SLRD building bylaw provisions. The permit extension fee is $500. So that's the current process in place. And staff do have some concerns with increasing the timeline from any further. So there could be implications from a BC building code perspective if we move beyond the 5 years that are provided under the BC building bylaw. And the building staff have conducted some review of other other regional districts, and standard practice is 3 to 4 years, and 6 years is the longest. And there's one regional district that currently provides 6 years for building permits. That's just some context to go along with this cover report item.
Questions?
No, I just think that if I can, that we had a good discussion at the EAD, and I really do think that we have to recognize that particularly in some of the remote areas and that includes all of our electoral areas to a greater or lesser degree. It's not that easy sometimes to bring in a contractor up the Gold Bridge or I mean, I think we asked, well, what would be holding this up, you know, with now that we're going into the new building code on this permit? It's like, well, you just have to get an enter guide in and you know, enter guide. Okay, we don't have one. So we have to find one, usually in Kamloops, for example. And so like there's, you know, and people have other jobs and they go away and they come back. Like there's some lots of legitimate reasons for these things taking longer. And so I think it's great that we're looking at extending the time periods and giving some of those guys a break that are working erratically on things or that just have delays, you know, for a lack of time and money, but have the intention of completing the project as planned. I mean, this is just, I think, reasonable and not to be billing them further in the meantime.
One of the other issues, especially in Area A, is that the majority of the property owners are non-resident property owners. And the time frame for building there is quite short. In spring, summer and fall. And you don't see much happening in the wintertime unless it's indoors. And a lot of these non-resident property owners, I was one, and I lived through it. And ours was reviewed a number of times, trying to get contractors from Squamish or from Kamloops, wherever the closest one was that would capable of doing the work. Also, was not easy. And never mind wildfires and every other issue that blocks our roads that comes in. And the prime example was that individual there that in the end, we give a notice on title on the last EAD meeting. He went through the same things I did, basically. And it takes a while. You know, we had to switch our electrical contractor twice to finally get everything approved. So there are definitely issues when you're a non-resident property owner, when you're there all the time, it's a little bit different. So I would like to see more input into this. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, through the chair. I think this is to my colleagues. I hear the challenges and definitely sympathize with them. 5 years feels like a fairly lengthy period of time. And we just heard from staff that is one of the longer availabilities in regional districts. And the rest of our regulations often change more quickly than that. And so I'm just curious, like how, if 5 years is not long enough, how long do people? 6.
At least one more 2-year term.
So 5,
Two,
so
two.
3 plus 2, so the 5.
no,
No,
7,
7,
2 and 2.
okay, I see.
So.
And recognizing that things do change in the interim, as like the building code has on some of the ones that we're looking at now.
Yeah.
But some of them are literally going 6, 7 and longer years. And for some very legitimate, delays that that I don't think people need to be penalized for. If the final product is acceptable to them, I mean, clearly it's at their own risk if they decide to leave a project and knowing that the building code is changing in the interim and the rules are gonna change and the next time we're gonna have different, that's their problem. But we don't need to make it worse.
That's the report through the chair. What's the process to get a new building permit? How long does it take?
Thank you. So through the chair, how long does it take to get?
Well, let's say this expired and instead of just extending, we ask them to come back through our process.
Yes, so the extension, there would be different fees.
Yeah.
So the extension process, that permit extension is only $500, which would be significantly less than starting a fresh
I'm
application.
just thinking about our current process now. So if you've exhausted 5 years, is it $500 to, if you've exhausted the 5-year permit?
It is $500 to move, like if you've had requesting the extension at that 3-year period.
Yeah.
Then you get an extension, you request the extension for another 2 years, that process costs $500. To start a whole new building permit application would be a bit more, and it all depends on like the square footage of the build, and it's a bit more of a complicated process.
Thanks.
Yeah, Director Stoner, Director Herford, Director Hattengill.
Thank you through the chair. I guess I also am just curious about what potential risks this opens us up to and able to like sign off at the end of a building permit. So if something has been extended for 7 years and the building code has changed, it might be the owner's liability, but our staff still have to sign off on it. And does that cause concern or issue? So I don't know if you have the answer to that.
Yes, thank you. So through the chair, I think some of those questions would require some more research, and if the board did provide direction for staff to prepare a report, that could be sort of explored further. I think staff's initial sort of thoughts on this is that we have a pretty there is a process for an extension currently in place. They need to apply 1 month ahead of time. I think maybe that's where some of the miss is. So there is some process steps to apply for that extension. The permit extension fee is quite low, and we are our current practice is within the normal timeframes for regional districts. That's the information I can provide today. If more information is needed, that will require more in-depth.
Okay, I'm gonna pause the people that have already asked questions and go to Director De Jong, who's on the screen, and I've missed her a couple of times. Go ahead.
Hi, thank you. I can kind of speak to this from doing a build ourselves, and we had really good communication from the staff about needing to extend. That being said, in today's, if you're doing an owner build and you want to save time or cost in your build, you are going to take a longer time to do that. And there are circumstances where it would take longer than 5 years, and having somebody go back and having to reapply at a new building code with the energy change, in some cases that might require a blower test. And some of those blower tests might require drywall to come down. So it can get quite, well, it might not, but it would get quite complicated trying to meet a new building code. What I'm wondering about is that if there's like any flexibility or any process that would allow for, if somebody's at 80% completion, then you could, under a certain circumstance, you could consider extending it. And usually I would think that the building inspectors would have a knowledge of where the building's at, what are the circumstances. So I just don't know if there's flexibility for the building inspectors to make any decisions or recommendations to being allowing people to extend. And maybe that decision still has to come towards the board, but that there's a path for it. Yeah.
Thank you. So through the chair, currently the SLRD building bylaw would be providing the direction as to how the building official can provide extensions, which is after a 36-month period, they must apply in writing 1 month before the date of the permit expiration, and the building official may extend the permit for 1 24-month period. So that's the in the current SLRD building bylaw, and so that's the process that we can implement. Anything outside of that would require changes to the SLRD building bylaw.
Okay. I have Chris, or Armin, then Chris, then Sal. I think we are moving towards a resolution to ask staff to come back with a report with options rather than us trying to fix this on the fly. Go ahead.
I was curious what the, in that rig, and that was a great segue. Thank you for reading out that piece of the bylaw, but the building official may, what is the criteria for a renewal? And is it you apply for it, you get it? Is there some thing in there that circumstance or change in something that would trigger a non-renewal? Or is it just a processing thing? And so I guess one is, that's the question, and then depending on the answer, like, is that appropriate, or can that, what that review looks like, play into this discussions?
Yeah, to my understanding of the process, I would suspect that the building official would be granting extensions when someone applies. And I don't know that there's specific criteria to that.
So then the fee that we're talking about, like, generally we're looking at cost recovery of with fees like this. I'm just trying to square those things. If there's not a probability of it not being renewed, then why, then what does that, what are we trying to achieve with the way that this runs, I guess would be my question leading up to that.
Yeah, and that would, I would, through the chair, that would require some more research and collaboration with the building department to be able to answer some of those questions. I couldn't say on the spot here how many extensions the SLRD grants on an annual basis. I suspect that more often than not, people don't apply within that 1 month period, even though there is communication. So I think it's not often projects, I think they're just taking longer for whatever reason, and I suspect that there aren't that many extensions, or the extension process isn't the challenge.
Chris?
Yeah, I guess sort of wondering, and maybe this is something that has to come back in a report, but is it mostly a case of people just doing a self-bill or whatever, so it takes a long time, but it's still ultimately compliant with the regulations of the current date? Or is this a case where there's a fair number of, we had said it's fine to build your home in the middle of a stream and now you can't, and they're trying to still build in the middle of a stream, because I have less sympathy for that, but more if they're just slow to build, and so do we have a sense of, or a way, even a legal way to make that distinguishing in terms of a renewal or not?
Thank you. So through the chair, I mean, I guess one piece of information I can share is that one of the regional districts that has a 6-year process, which is the longest we were able to find this sort of opportunity for research between the EAD and the board, that there was a provision in there around like extenuating circumstances. So maybe that would be a wildfire, or maybe that would be, something that's not a normal part of a building permit process. That wouldn't include it taking longer to get professionals into some areas, and that, I believe, was the more the nature of the EAD discussion, was around it being harder in some areas of the SLRD to get professionals up to these areas to enable property owners to work through the building permit processes and requirements. So those are kind of aspects I think we would need to take back and do some more research, if that's the direction the board is wanting staff to go in.
Yeah, thank you. And I guess one more thing I'd put into that is, and I don't know, I suspect it's a low occurrence, but if there's CACs or something attached to one of these, the context for that, and someone who just hasn't done anything, like there's maybe some of these considerations in my mind about whether or not a renewal or a 7-year period is appropriate. And I don't know what our legal flexibility is to consider these things.
I think that needs to come back in the report.
Oh, you answered my question. It's all up to the building inspector whether the extension is allowed or not. And if we go back to the old process where it was 2 years with a 2-year extension, then it could get again another 2 years, again another 2 years, again another 2 years, and again another 2 years. If you look at the report at the EAD meeting last month on this particular one, on notice on title, just go ahead and read it. I think it'll give you some insight into why the individual still hasn't completed his project. And for others, you look at, you start the project, 5 years later, you're looking at a cost that may be 50 times greater than your budget was. Now what? Now what do you do? Because that's what's actually happening. And it's happening with a lot of projects. I can name a few that the SLRD has done where it's way over. And so there's many instances that I think in the end, it's up to that building inspector to say yes or no. And if it needs to come back to the board, it needs to come back to the board. But we need to make it so that people can finish their projects.
Okay, so I think we'd like staff to come back with a report on some more options, some different fees, and some different extension. That I think what we want to do is we want to give the building inspector the tools to do their job. We want to give clarity to the community that this isn't meant to be punitive or a money grab or nickel and diming on more fees or extension fees. But we obviously don't want to bear the cost of a project just going on forever. We need to recover the cost of the building. you hear examples of building inspectors having to go to properties, 20, 30 times to inspect different, aspects that haven't been completed. Who's covering that expense? I don't think it should be, general government necessarily. It should be borne by the property owner. And I'm sure that those fees are also built in, but I would like to understand that better. So I think the motion is that we ask staff to come back with some other options to this. Jen?
Before that motion gets seconded, can I just get clarity from staff on where this would fit on the work plan or what would be dropped in order to make the work happen?
Thank you through the chair. In my understanding, when, is the question, when could a report come back to the board? I would have to, I suspect in the new year.
Yeah.
That would be reasonable.
But just to clarify, this is not something that is currently on the work plan, so something we'll have to give in order for this to be
That is correct.
prioritized.
Yep, so that's correct. This isn't on our work plan, so this would take,
Takes work and time. Yeah, go ahead.
So is this something that could or would come back to us in terms of a scoping or part of our budget to understand? 'Cause it sounds like what we have in place is pretty consistent, so it's not like there's a gap in our policy, it's just maybe we wanna change it. So is this like a 2-week project to do this, or this is like a half a day to come up with this report, or and is it?
Yeah, I don't think it's fair to ask Ms. Dewar, who's in an acting capacity, to be able to presuppose this. So maybe this is not a motion to come back with a report. Maybe this is a report or a request to bring this back at budget time to consider it as a project. Moved by Director Crompton, seconded by Director Stoner. Any clarity required? Go ahead.
Okay, I just want to make a comment. Like I see the direction that the AGs wanted to go with this, and I don't want to overcomplicate this and create a whole new body of work either. So I'll go with the motion now, but I feel like we're adding work here when the outcome that was desired was fairly simple. I recognize through the conversation that some criteria and some gray areas have popped up. And it would be nice to clear those up, but I feel like we're doing one of those, hey, let's add work to what was a simple sort of direction here, so. That's sort of how I feel going.
Okay, Carmen, thank you.
Yeah, I'm supportive of this direction generally. I do think we need to be diligent about how we, how complicated we make things, and two, how we spend the resources, whether it's staff time or direct dollars, however you want to think about that. And I'd like to understand, as part of this, that like renewal criteria, I think is important. I also think that, we are, like, how much of an obstacle is this? I'm reporting about the magnitude of the problem that we're trying to solve. It might just be simple enough to change it, but I'm not there all the way yet. So I think this is an appropriate step.
Yeah, and I guess in addition to that, like, what are our risks? If we go ahead with how it was proposed in the first place, that we've come up with some gray areas and some concerns are, I kind of, maybe before staff does a report, I'd like to hear, and not to put on the spot at this point, but I'd rather hear, like, are there really big holes in this if we move ahead? Is somebody gonna build on in the middle of the stream now because they could today and they can't yesterday or whatever tomorrow? Like, I'd like to really understand those risks before we start redesigning this whole policy, because again, the direction seems simple. It seems to the intention is to accommodate rural challenges with these sorts of builds, and so I'd like to hear how big those risks are before we spend a bunch of time on it.
Okay.
Thank you, and I do, yeah, I don't see that this should, our intention was not to put a lot of work on staff. First of all, I'm happy to hear, it sounds like property owners do get notice when their permits are coming to expire. That I'm really glad to hear that. And I know that property owners ignore letters and all of that from staff all the time, as we see in our reports, but at least we're doing our part. And we're already doing that part. This is just to give the building people a little discretion for some extensions on building permits in extenuating circumstances. I really agree, it shouldn't be sort of analyzed too much beyond that, and I don't feel that that puts our staff to a lot more work. In fact, it may save them a little work if it kind of works out well for the builder and staff. And it doesn't mean that it's gonna cost the SLRD in any way. I mean, of course, the property owners, and they themselves would like to get these things done as quickly as they can, but you know, life intervenes, and there really are some extra complications in some of the more rural areas that do make some of these delays very legitimate. And I think it's just common sense and compassionate to allow for them. Thank you.
I don't know that this is no work. I don't know that this is lots of work. I don't know much about it at all. So I think for us to, with no report, suggest that we know how much or how little is involved in editing a program like this. I think sending it to budget makes way more sense. I think this is about our process here and putting resolutions on the table and changing existing policy without giving time to understand the pros and the cons of it. I just don't think it's good process, so I'll be voting in favor of this.
Yeah, and just for clarity, this isn't to create a new body of work. This is to come back to the budget and say, is this something we need to give attention to? In fact, the motion as was in the package was that staff would bring back a report to a future meeting with no particular date here about extending building permit timelines due to the challenges that they've been encountering. So it's really just for staff to tell us this is not working and we want it to change, or it's pretty good, but we could tweak a few things. So again, we're not creating a whole new work plan. We're just, we want this to have budget attached to it if it's going to be significant. And so I think we could probably move forward with the motion that was to refer this to budget and have staff come back. Is that clear for everyone? Is there anything that has to be said at this point? Okay, because you will absolutely get another chance to.
Just a quick question. The recommendation that was in the agenda speaks to the bring back a report. By saying we're referring it to budget, are we implying that this report happens, but it comes back to us in
No,
relation to budget?
no. It's, does this fit in the work plan?
Okay. So I'll make sure.
Okay,
So
so
the
calling the
motion-
question, all in favor?
Just maybe, can you please tell me what the motion is? That,
This is rough, but that this item be brought back at budget time to consider as a potential project.
The report would be the project before the whole.
And-
Building bylaw.
so staff will now have to give an estimate of time for
Yeah.
the budget item to be given a number.
Is it an
How much
hour's
time is
work
that
or-
gonna take?
They- Yeah, I think we're good.
Okay.
All in favor? Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Where did we end up? 7.1. Bylaw notice enforcement bylaw 1447-2016. This is an amendment for the SLRD wildfire landscaping management bylaw notice, fees, and other solid waste bylaw updates. And we have Ms. Stewart here.
Thank you. My name is Claire Durham, Senior Planner at the Squamish-Lillooet Regional District. I will give a really brief overview of the staff report and happy to take any questions on the proposed amendment bylaw. So the wildfire protection and mitigation is an important part of our planning considerations. A new wildfire landscaping management bylaw was adopted in July of this year. And the SLRD bylaw notice enforcement bylaw needs to be amended to include a notice for fee for the activities of landscaping in contravention of this management bylaw. So that's the main purpose of this amendment bylaw. And just to clarify that the proposed fines are aligned with the penalties for bylaw contraventions currently in place for wildfire protection development permit areas, currently in place under the SLRD bylaw notice enforcement bylaw. The amendment bylaw includes a new schedule for specific to the wildfire landscaping management bylaw, and there are also proposed amendments to address updates from the Environmental Services Department for mainly solid waste related bylaws. And I will leave it at that. I'm happy to answer any questions. All the appendix B includes the track changes, which are sort of highlight the amendments that are included in this amendment bylaw. I also want to flag that we need to add a recommendation ahead of the two recommendations that are in the staff report. And the recommendation is that Schedule A, Appendix 18 be revised, so the jurisdictions affected references Village of Pemberton and portion of Area C. Currently, it just references portion of Area C, so we need to add in that Village of Pemberton piece. Okay.
Don't wanna get on too much of a tangent, but when I saw the cost benefit or compliance agreements, most of the items don't use this, a few do. When I think about the amount of effort in negotiating one and then enforcing it and the fine amounts we're talking about, I sort of wondered, is there any value in these? Like, do we just reduce the fees, or like, is there an important reason why these compliance agreements are helpful and useful?
Might defer to our to here enforcement. How that works, thank you.
Through the chair, the compliance agreement component has been there in existence since, but it has actually never been requested. So I have not put it in place at all. For a bigger issue that would require time for people to bring their property into compliance, it would be a reasonable, like a discount option available instead of me issuing a fine for every day or week they weren't in compliance. But yes, actually they've never been utilized.
But maybe now's not the time to address that if it's not being used anyways, but maybe it's something to think about just removing and making things simpler, sure, but I'll leave that for now.
Yeah. Does that add more work to remove something? Yes. Because we would have to rescind that portion of the bylaw and then fill in the hole.
Yeah, not talking about doing it today,
Okay.
but for future.
Okay. Director Stoner, go ahead.
Thank you, through the chair, appreciate this work to advance the wildfire landscaping bylaw. I think one of the things that we talked about when we passed the bylaw was that this was definitely going to be an education first approach, but that having a tool here is important. But I do wonder, in kind of that spirit, two things. One, if there's a grandfather period, so I appreciate, like, we would probably do education and outreach first before we start fining, but I do wonder if like the fine bylaw has it in itself a little bit of a grandfather period for this section in particular, would be my first question, if that's possible.
Through the chair, my first approach with property owners is always an education component. So with this new bylaw, I'm currently actually working with two properties that are not compliant, but they weren't in the fee schedule, but yeah, that's always my first approach, and it's not just a one, I continue. The fine is really the last, step to take if necessary.
And then I think subsequent to that, I do wonder if maybe a slightly lower value in the fine is perhaps warranted, Because if you align it with the one that is for the wildfire DPA, those folks typically have a required engagement with the SLRD as part of their development application process. Whereas the like existing landscaping or inputting new landscaping could probably happen with somebody having no idea that we have a bylaw. Again, we're education first, but it feels like it's a little bit tricky to align the value of the fee at that same rate. And so that was just one thing that I was considering about whether we actually just do like a half the fee for.
If this is on an existing property that's.
If
not
it's on an
requiring-
existing property, they are maybe not coming into compliance despite education or outreach. But yeah, I feel like having a slightly lower fee is maybe just more in line with that idea of grandfathering in some of the existing work and working on an education basis as opposed to you're definitely putting in a new property or doing a new build and here's all of the information about our bylaws. This is more like, we're asking you to change your landscaping.
Mhm.
And that is expensive unto itself. It takes time. We are doing an education first approach. But it feels to me a little bit out of alignment to have the same fee schedule there. That's maybe more for my colleagues than for you. As I muse out one.
Yeah, I've been approached and asked if this is like punitive and they're gonna go out and inspect all the properties. And, you know, start knocking on doors, telling people that they have to pull shrubs out and, you know, obviously. We don't have the capacity to do that, nor do we have the desire to do that. And, you know, I think there's a real communication piece around why these conditions exist and, you know, what we're going for so that it's not education on a one-on-one basis. That's sort of second line of defense, but our first line of opportunity is to communicate out. And I think, you know, you'd be, I think that the general acceptance that we have to change how we do things is out there. And so, yeah, so I agree with you and I'd be interested to hear from the rest of the board if anyone wants to amend the fee structure to be half as was presented by Director Stoner. Arvin, go ahead.
But I guess the question, to me, there are two different categories of things, and thank you for that. That makes good sense. If you've gone through a new build and you've been, you know, we just had a discussion about all the regulatory pieces you need to go through, and then you sort of actively choose to do something else. So I think having some differentiation between the two is appropriate. Is it half as much, or do you take, like, which one do you move?
Yeah, is it half?
I guess that's to me, it's actually like that first scenario of, well, we know the regulations, we've been through it, we're just choosing to not do that because we're gonna do this other thing we wanna do. To me, that might actually be more higher than what's there. So I'm into there being differentiation, but I don't know what's appropriate and what we're basing those fees on. If it's like, it's not really cost recovery. It's like, what makes it work? Because that's the outcome that
Yeah,
we want. Lowering, really making it easier. Lowering is a challenge to me. So I'd maybe be more inclined to go higher on those ones where, yeah, we see your regulations and we don't care.
yeah.
Like, to me, that's the most egregious.
We're not talking about like a $25 fee to a $50 fee. We're talking 200, 400, 400 to 800. Does any of this change what you would recommend? Do you want some time to think about it, given what you've heard from the board?
Well, through the chair. Previous enforcement was, for just an example, was garbage totes. Which became a huge, then that was a much heavier fine initially, which I found wasn't helpful in having people become compliant. And it was a financial hit, which isn't the message. It's really based on education and So we changed that and lowered it, and now I'm having a much better success rate with people aren't getting their back up because, you know, a conversation I had just yesterday was, you know, he said, oh, it was just leaves, but you know what, I'll pay the fine, it's $80, right? If you get the discount yearly. So the landscape, this new bylaw, I'm dealing with two properties that it's pre-existing, so they're not new builds. The one property, despite the strata being involved, the neighbor being involved, having lots of conversations with them to say, this isn't wildfire safe, their fence fell down. And then they decided to replace their fence with cedar hedging. And it's right beside the neighboring property's deck. And they're very concerned, and I don't blame them. And yeah, they actually brought the strata in and they had meetings, and they haven't responded to any of my correspondence yet. Mine has just been a reach out. I didn't have a find issue, wasn't going to issue at that point. So it's just like, just communicate with me. And still nothing. So yeah, it's going to be a challenge, and that's blatant because they actually were told and went ahead because they preferred that. The other property I'm dealing with is with a invasive species, and our unsightly bylaw doesn't really apply to it. So I'm going to actually utilize this new bylaw to try to keep, so I can get them to keep the invasive species cut to an acceptable level. That's where I sort of ended up with that. So I do not go into properties. I don't stroll down streets looking for bylaw compliance. So yeah, new builds are going to be governed a different way. This will all just be for existing properties.
Okay, you had Director Birch Jones, then probably Chris.
Well, I just really appreciate what Director Stoner was saying about education, and I know that's the way that the staff approach it anyway, and I wish, I would like that to be 90% of our intervention and hopefully even more and less on fines. And I'm interested in also lowering the fines, but maybe you need a sliding scale, you need for this guy, but then the higher level for that guy, maybe you need from 200 to 500, whatever. One thing that I wrote a note on, but I don't have a page number, there's a reference to a letter of comfort, and I didn't know what that means, and I couldn't find it in the definition, so what is a letter of comfort? And sorry, I can't find it, so maybe if you're looking puzzled, ignore the question. Yeah. If it pops up, I'll make myself clear.
I see letters of comfort on page 88 of 249.
And then, so that's beyond, that's into the next,
right, yeah.
Okay.
Director Pettengill, go ahead.
Yes, I hadn't thought of this, but maybe it's relevant to where the fees can land. So if you are non-compliant, you end up with a fine. Is it then you're fined and then there's nothing we can do after that? Or is it like every day we can go back and give you the same fine? And so we could actually have a low fine, and for someone who's non-compliant, just keep on, if that's what it took, hitting them with the fine.
Through the chair, yes, I can issue a fine for every day.
Okay. I have you, but I'm gonna go to Director Dijon first.
Okay, I think Chris kind of covered it, but what I was just thinking was we're trying to do education first, but this is really a tool for the bylaw officer to be able to actually get people that are a risk. And it seems like she's deeming or understanding certain circumstances that are more concerning. So just wondering what levels of fines in your experience as a bylaw officer, or what structure of fines would work to help you get compliance, and whether that's a daily or if that's a higher one, because it sounds like we're not going straight to fining, we're doing education, you communicate with people first, and then the fine is a tool to help you get people to work with you.
Through the chair. So Yes, I used garbage totes. It had as an example in the beginning because it had a higher fine initially and then we reduced it. With any of these fines, when a notice is issued, they are still given options to have it reviewed. So and that doesn't mean going to a formal adjudication, it just means going to our screening officer, which I hand walk people through that process. You know, so I say, look, if you want, you give me your explanation of how this happened or what steps you're gonna take, write that down. And we'll put it to the screening officer and we can cancel the ticket. The notice, so that happens on many occasions. I have never on a file yet actually issued a notice every day. I have gone to, okay, a month from now, if it's still not, yeah, you're getting another one. And for those situations, they've always usually ended up going to legal, like a higher, because it's a bigger problem. So it's people, yeah, it's the fine amount. I don't, we also can cancel. The screening officer can make the discretion to cancel, just even if someone indicates a financial hardship, that this wouldn't be imposed on them. So that's how they're also canceled. So I guess it's just an attention. It's how much attention I want to get from them.
Okay, Director Hopple.
Right, thank you for the report. I want to say I really like how the fines are laid out, as there is a fine and then there's an early and a late, both being the same amount. Ours are different in Lillooet and it's really quite confusing. So I really like this a lot better. One of the issues is 3.1.7 or 3.17. It's on page 79, top of the list. And I understand all the rules and regulations around the landfill and everything, except for this one, allowing children or pets outside the vehicle at the landfill. I don't recall seeing that, so I get the pets thing, but how often are children out there? I mean, they're out there all the time, right? I mean, come on, little Johnny, like, let's help dad, unload the back of the truck. I mean, are we really fining people $200 for their children outside the vehicle?
Hounding them.
Yeah.
It
wasn't that total. I know that this is more about the fees and everything, but it just,
Well, it's in there,
it's in there.
and there is an amendment suggested from $150 to $200.
Right, but I just think that, and how do you define children? Because really, that 18 and under?
Stay in the car too.
Right?
I guess I'll take
Go
that
ahead.
down.
Yeah.
I think obviously something that we intend to never use, but
Right.
if there's an issue where something is safety at risk or something that continues to become a problem, I guess that would be something we look at. If our kids were running around the landfill on a regular basis, it gives us something to look back at and of course.
I just think that's so weird. Like I said, I understand the dogs or the animals or whatever, but children?
That's an interesting one, because I was at the Lillooet landfill. In the recycling, in the big building, the cardboard and everything else is, and they got a compactor right there for the cardboard.
Yeah.
Where people can actually throw it in. And the lady with 3 young kids starts walking in and people are all over the place and vehicles backing up. And I thought, wow, I would never let my kids do that.
Or if something were to happen to the kids,
Oh, no kidding.
I mean, what are we gonna do? Find the mother $200 like that?
Well, no, you're gonna, it's, yeah. Basically, I looked at it and it says, wow, I would never let my kids be in there.
Exactly, like, I just think.
But that lady did.
It's a really big problem. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
uh,
I'm not funny.
you are.
Okay, can we get to a resolution here?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I use I don't use the PDF version, page 11 of 17 on the report. 3.12, it's the Gold Bridge transfer station. Disposing of refuse from outside area C or village of Pemberton. They don't say outside the service area of area A.
What paper is that on?
83. The preliminary.
One, two.
Cut and paste.
That's
Area
3.12.
It's the one right below the children.
Yeah, it's
Right.
children are there too, you know.
So one little amendment for change.
There's that one, and then the one Claire mentioned at the beginning where page 8. For Pemberton Transfer Station, it says jurisdictions affected just area C, but it didn't include Village of Pemberton, which we need to.
Right.
Yeah, we fixed that.
Okay.
So it's
So is that a friendly amendment to the language?
Yeah.
Yeah. Before the motion has been put on the floor. Yeah, yes,
So with those two changes that we've spoken about, only
okay, do I have a seconder? Director Demare, comments? Okay. Seeing no further comments, I will call the question, all in favor? Is there anyone opposed? Motion carries, I'm imposing a recess until 1 p.m. Please come back, ready to go.
Sorry, this second one, the adoption by.
Oh, sorry, that was the first, second and third reading. And let's adopt it by Director Herford and second by Director Demare. All in favor, any opposed, motion carries. Thank you very much. Now I will impose a recess. Okay, we'll call the meeting back to order. We're on 7.2. We're looking at the SLRD development approval of information fees and notifications procedures bylaw 1936. And we have Ms. Stewart here, acting director of planning.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you. Good afternoon. So I'll give a brief overview of the report and then happy to take any questions. Updates are required to the SLRD development approval information fees and notifications bylaw to address new permits, updated language and procedures, as well as fees. Various schedules are also being removed from the bylaw to enable application forms to be updated without triggering amendment bylaw processes. In terms of the bylaw updates, I've mentioned we have the application form, specifically the development application form and campground application form. It's being proposed that these be removed from the bylaw and just reference those applications. We have general edits to address formatting and grammatical errors, and updated language and terms. We have a section around bylaw lapse and board direction. So section 7.1 is being updated to require that amendment bylaws are brought back to the SLRD board for direction. If not adopted within 18 months from third reading, rather than requiring a new application by default. And there's also an addition of signage requirements for campground permits, soil deposit and removal permits, as well as mobile home park. In terms of the application fee schedule updates, there have been updates made to the public hearings and advertising fees, largely to reflect some of the changes under the Local Government Act around public hearing waivers. And also the public hearings are we aren't able to hold public hearings. There's also references to regional growth strategy amendments, which haven't been captured previously, as well as annual rate of inflation increases that were set as of September 2024, where the board approved an approach that there are annual fee increases built into the fees bylaw. So this is just updating the table with that 2.6% increase. We also had the addition of the manufactured home park permits. And there's a bylaw going for consideration of adoption later in the agenda specific to that permit. And then we also added a section for application withdrawn. And this would allow applicants who withdraw within their submission within 2 weeks to receive a full refund. That's sort of a light touch of what's being proposed under this amendment bylaw. We also are adding a recommendation that 8.1.2 date of notification be revised to reference the SLRD planning procedures policy 14-2019, as this planning procedures policy provides greater notification than the Local Government Act requirements. So we wanted to sync the planning procedures policy with the fees bylaw. And I'm leaving it there and happy to take any questions.
Great, thank you. Director Herbert.
Yeah, thank you. I'm curious about thank you for the work on this. It all makes good sense. I'm trying to understand sometimes the why of these things. And I think this, the 18-month around the, if it hasn't been adopted inside that time, is obviously there to address something that happens. Could you provide some context to the types of things? I think, we've had some discussion in this room around when various permits lapse and what the renewal process is. So like how often do we run into this? I'm supportive of this. It makes good sense, but at the same time, I'd like to understand what has been happening in the organization that led to this recommendation.
Yes, yep, thank you. So through the chair, this change is actually coming from the recent example with Tiger Bay, where it had been longer. We were coming up to that 18-month timeframe from third reading, and there had been delays for various reasons from different ministry requirements, as well as legal requirements, as well as just the proponent needing to work on their own processes, which meant that we were running up to that 18-month time frame since third reading, and we were like a month short of that application having to go back to square one. And staff would have preferred there have been a mechanism for that to go back to the board for direction, and the board would have the discretion as to what that direction would be, rather than the application just be sort of completely sort of having to start right at the beginning again.
So then that makes good sense, and there's a lot of complex things and other agencies and so on. When it comes back and some direction is passed, does the board have like just broad discretion as to what that is, including saying that we've not interested in an extension? Like, is that kind of the nature of what that conversation would look like if it was to come back?
Yes, through the chair, that would be at the full discretion of the board and I think that would also enable the board to consider the context within which that 18-month time period is coming up, and sort of some of those whys, but there are not specific details or criteria attached to that piece.
One more on this. Okay, that similar to building permit where there's like needs to be applied at a certain time, is the trigger for this to come back to the board at that 18-month time staff? Or is there something that a proponent needs to do? Like, is there a procedure what procedure would be used to ensure that this happens?
Yes, thank you. So through the chair, the staff would bring a report would bring a report to the board presenting the bylaws that were sitting at third reading, and the board would have the discretion to.
So proactive from
Yeah.
staff, not reactive from an applicant.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Director Pagano.
Yeah, just in the new 5.2.5, page 117 of 249, my package. the sort of considerations for TUP, there's a whole bunch of stuff. But there's nothing around climate change impacts, direct or indirect. And given the prevalence of that in our RGS, is that something we could include? It would seem to be in line with the other sorts of things that are here.
5.2.5.
Yeah, it's the new 5.2.5. Subject to the provisions of section 486 of the Local Government Act, the following info may also be requested.
That through the chair, we can add information around climate action to this list. And I will say that this list is not exhaustive, like we can ask for that anyways, but if it's helpful to have it listed, that can absolutely be added in there.
Yeah, I think that makes sense, again, given the prevalence of that topic in our RGS. And then one other question, 8.0 and 8.1 notification. It talks about when there's a public hearing and so on, the distance. Does this this doesn't say anything about newspaper or publication notification. Does that happen too? Is that legislated somewhere else?
Thank you through the chair. That is legislated in the Local Government Act, and we follow those procedures that are outlined in the Local Government Act.
Okay, I think I'll leave it there for now. Just the reason I asked, when I thinking about work camps in particular and some of the experiences we've had, it's, you know, for something small, maybe these are appropriate in my mind. Something very large, maybe the notification is bigger, but if we're handling this in newspapers and so on, maybe that takes care of the broader notification, but that's what was the reason for that question.
But they've made changes to that section of the Local Government Act to update it so that it's a little bit more timely and broader recipients, because obviously many communities have lost newspapers. And so there are various forms of media now included in the Local Government Act. Any other questions? Oh, go ahead, Director DeJean.
Hi, just two questions. Let me just find my spot here. One of the changes was CSA standards for the type of mobile home. I'm just curious if you can shed light on the difference between, or why that was changed, but there's, I'm just concerned if it's more limiting by removing A277 as a standard. And then the second question was related to 3.12 of shipping containers being prohibited. And sometimes those can be useful as a storage. But I do think if there could be some requirements around landscaping or.
Yeah, I think you're in the next report.
Am I? Oh,
If you jumped ahead. Yeah.
jumped ahead? Okay. Sorry.
7.2.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Notifications.
Okay.
We'll come back to that.
Thanks.
Anyone else?
I thought some of the fees were kind of steep and some of the timelines were a bit short. But do we really have to advertise? It was a very funny meeting because I remember Director Rainbow asking the same question. We really have to advertise that we're not holding a public hearing?
Through the chair, that is a requirement under the Local Government Act.
Even though it's the province that made the changes, and so we can't hold a public hearing, it still falls on us. Because we still have to notify people that we're not holding a public hearing, which at least might bring their attention.
Yes, and through the chair, that notification process, although a public hearing is not being held, there's still an opportunity for public submissions, and that's largely the intent of that notice. That's
Sorry,
being
of
shared.
course.
And there would be circumstances in which we could have a public hearing, but we choose not to, insofar as might not be deemed necessary. Whereas the housing loophole,
No, okay, no, I've got it now, and also I wondered, is this a kind of cost recovery on this fee structure too? Like the cost of holding a Zoom meeting is $1,500 and advertising for it is about 2,000. That's about what the costs are. And then I did find the comfort letter, it's on page 109.
Yeah.
May I just ask what that is? I couldn't find it in the definitions.
Yeah, absolutely. So through the chair, a letter of comfort, staff often prepare those when there is a potential property purchaser who comes in and is seeking information about a property that they're interested in purchasing, and staff will go and do research and sort of share with the person what is allowed on the property, what some of the restrictions or hazards might be. So it's and that cost is essentially covering staff's time to provide the member public with comfort about what is allowed
I
or what
see.
hazards might be on a certain property or other flood construction levels. There's sort of a
Oh,
whole
okay.
gamut of things that can be captured.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
It's strange to call it that.
Change or
Maybe change it
maybe
to
define
due
it.
diligence letter or something.
Legal reason.
Sorry,
There's probably a legal reason why.
probably. Yeah. Go ahead.
Could go in the definitions.
Thank you, through the chair, a few questions. The first is on the fee schedule in particular. I guess this kind of applies across, but section 4 is the one that jumped out at me. But there's a few different components where we apply the fee based on dwelling units, and in particular, the non-market housing dwelling units get discounted. We've had a number of examples where we don't actually know the number of dwelling units at time of application, and or that may shift. And so I'm just curious how we calculate that with an application that maybe doesn't have a defined number of units.
Thank you. So through the chair, we the fee would be calculated based on the application that is initially submitted. I have not seen there be sort of changes to that fee later. So acknowledging that the input from the board and input from the community may change the actual number of units that get built. The fee is based on what the application is, how the application is submitted.
Thanks for that clarity. My other question was on section 6.3 of the bylaw itself. So the component that speaks about refunding portions of the fee. And I think I can rationalize the first two, like the 100% refund within 2 weeks, 50% application fee refund before staff start doing the report. But then I'm a little bit curious about the rationale for the 33% refund if it doesn't get to public hearing. I feel like at that point, we've devoted a lot of staff time, resources, board resources. We've prioritized it in the queue. So then why would we refund them if it's just an application that's not supportable by the board?
Thank you through the chair. I don't know if I have a great answer for that one. This has been what we've been working with in our bylaw. It hasn't come up as an issue. In practice, I wouldn't say that we often implement that section of the refund structure. We have had the opportunity to refund 50% of application fees. The 100%, that's a new one that we're bringing in. And so open to board input on that item there.
Thanks.
So on this point, the language does say 33% less actual costs incurred and owed by the regional district. Like the application fees seem so minimal. How do we not spend all that? Like, is it necessary? Do we even need this? It feels like it might not actually be possible to give. I mean, that's my rough math of having spent time to get it to one of the described phase. You said you've never used this piece to do that comparison?
Yes, through the chair. I have not had an opportunity to implement that section before. I could see if it was a really big application, that there could be fees remaining. I would also suggest that we often see proponents want to go through that public hearing step, that, you know, we wouldn't often see people pulling out at that stage.
So more, this doesn't, that would not be enacted if it was just not supported at first reading. So this would be the things like where you maybe put first reading with conditions for second reading and then they step away. That scenario would be supported through here.
And through the chair, you know, perhaps there is a professional report that is required from a referral agency after first reading, and that report doesn't come back favorably. Maybe that would be an example when the applicant would be requesting to pull their application and they'd like to see some application fee refund. You know, that 33%, I don't have a sort of strong history as to where that number came from.
So just last, I thought the last one was the last one, but this might be the last one. So then it doesn't apply to where the board just doesn't support something at one of those earlier stages. Should we be more explicit about that, or is that implicit in just the way that we conduct business otherwise?
Through the chair, there is an opportunity to be more explicit in that language. The way that it reads is that it is just attached to the condition that no public hearing or notice of a public hearing has been granted.
I guess if we vote it down, they can't withdraw something that's, because it's dead at that point. So, okay, moved, that's fine. Thank you.
Okay.
Just process wise, if we were comfortable moving this, but I wanted that language in about the climate. Does staff have recommended language, or is the recommendation we would just give it second reading and come back again at this, or?
Sorry, can you repeat the language that you'd like to change?
Just in 5.2.5, consideration of direct and indirect climate impacts.
Through the chair, I think we could have the language be quite broad and such that an assessment of the climate impacts of the proposal be considered. I do know that we do look at the regional growth strategy, which has it as a climate action goal and section. And we do have 5.3, the director or board may request additional information as necessary to evaluate the application. And I'm also hearing if there's a desire to have a specific bullet related to assessment of climate impacts that we can add, and I think we could do that now.
So do you want to amend?
I guess I would move it with
Bylaw.
that language.
Okay.
Move the recommendation with that.
An added bullet to 5.2.5 to consider.
I guess.
The climate impact.
Yeah, direct and indirect climate impacts as.
Okay, so, yeah. go ahead.
Sorry, and if we, and Ms. Stewart also mentioned another amendment, that
Yeah.
perhaps we could
Yeah.
do it the same.
So
time,
with both
or
amendments?
change. We'll call them revisions.
Yeah, let's do it. Do I have a seconder? Director Rich Jones seconds it. Any further comments? I see no further comments, so I'll call the question. All in favor, and this is on first, second, and third reading. Just for clarity.
As revised. This is the
With the
revisions,
amendments, with the revisions.
and then we'll go move to first
Oh.
and third.
I see, okay, so this is the amendment then. Yeah. Okay, seconded by Director Rich Jones. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. So now the first, second, and third reading has just been amended. Moved by Director Pettengill, seconded by Director Stoner. Comments? All in favor? Is there anyone opposed? Motion carries. Now on the bylaw to be adopted. Who would like to move it? Director Richmond, seconded by Director Stoner. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Thanks. Okay, 7.3. I bet you're gonna talk to us now about manufactured home and camping out here. Manufactured, no, just kidding, go ahead.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Claire Dew. I'm a senior planner at the Squamish-Lillooet Regional District. I will be sharing this report on behalf of Ms. McKay, who is unable to join us today. And I will do my best to receive any questions that the board has. So the purpose of this report is to introduce the new mobile home park bylaw. Staff are recommending that all readings and adoption of the proposed bylaw, which is intended to replace the existing residential mobile home park bylaw. Just some background, the original bylaw was adopted in 1979. The last amendment was made in 1985. So it is considered outdated and in need of some updating. And I think another important context to this desire to update is that we do have language in our housing need and demand study that is recognizing the importance of mobile home parks as affordable housing. So we may start to see more opportunity for mobile home park as a housing strategy, and we need an updated bylaw to reflect that. And another driver behind the need for these changes is that there have been public requests to add habitable and conditioned space to existing mobile homes. And so that's addressed under this new bylaw, as well as the bylaw being amended to or updated to align with regional district bylaws, policies, modern legislation, and the BC building code, as well as best practices. And there's a couple pieces I wanted to highlight. Referrals, we did internal referrals to environmental services as well as protective services to ensure that waste diversion and fire protection were captured. Health authorities also provided input. We recognize the connection to the housing need and demand study, but it's also connected to the regional growth strategy goal 3 to generate a range of quality affordable housing. And I think another important context piece for the board is just that, pardon me, right now, the only zoning bylaw that provides for mobile home or like has a mobile home park zone is the Area C, electoral Area C zoning bylaw. So right now, this mobile home park bylaw would only apply in Area C, but as we could see additional mobile home parks built, that it would apply throughout the regional district when zoning is in place. I'll leave it there.
Okay, Director Dujon, you had questions.
Yeah, I was diving right into that. So my question was just on the first one was about the CSA standards and just the change from having both Z240 and A277 to just having the Z240. I'm just curious why it's consolidated and if that would, and I guess we're talking about new mobile homes, so maybe that's the new standard. So just some clarity around that would be great.
Yes, thank you. So through the chair, that is correct. That is the current BC building code requirements. And so that language is reflecting the current requirements, which have been consolidated.
Okay. All right, any other questions? Go ahead.
Just sort of taking a step back from this, I recognizing there's been a whole cultural, societal reception towards mobile home parks. But is there something fundamentally different to this why we wouldn't just sort of incorporate this into our normal housing bylaws? And yes, there's some CSA and building code standards apply, but is there like a key reason why this needs its whole own separate bylaw in this day and age?
Thank you. Through the chair, my understanding is that the provisions relate to layout, density, uses within the mobile home park, and just the ownership structure of those mobile home parks differs than it would in, say, just a typical neighborhood where the lots are owned individually. So I think there's an opportunity to think of these more as collective residences. Not sure if that answers your question fully.
Okay, so thank you for the report, and I really like the revised, I mean, obviously, times have changed over the years, but it definitely represents a modern framework to allow these mobile homes. But one of my questions was, and maybe I missed it in here, but it's not, we don't allow containers, but what about containers that are made into tiny homes? Because I think moving forward, that's gonna be an option that people are looking at. And I know they're looking at it now too, but does that comply in here? Did I miss it somewhere or?
Yeah, thank you through the chair. So a shipping container can be used as a dwelling if it has a building permit. So if they can go through the process to have proper permits for the shipping container or the tiny home, then that would meet the.
That would, yeah, meet it, as long as it was by the BC code.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Question? Go ahead.
I was ready to move
You're
the,
ready to move it? Go ahead.
Sorry, there's also just, if I can just, there's two places in here where I'd just like to add a recommendation to update the fees. We just passed the new fee bylaw, it's just the old one, so we've got two places in there, we'll update that
Okay,
to the current bylaw. Yes.
so my motion was meant to encapsulate the alignment with the fee alignment with the current, with the recently adopted. Also,
the ink is still wet. Yeah,
would that save us on the motion?
Yeah. that is the intention. I didn't have it seconded in, so you made yourself ultra clear. And it is seconded by Director Birch Jones. Are there any comments? No comments, so I will call the question. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Motion carries.
That was the first done.
That was for the first,
Right.
first, second, and third reading. And then the adoption of said bylaw as has been discussed. Heard, Director Stoner, second. Comments? I think this is a positive move to update and modernize our perception of what a home can be. So I'm appreciative of this work. Thank you. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Motion carries. All right, 8.1, acting CAO verbal update, please, glacier outburst flood hazard town hall.
Omar Butt, Director of Environmental Services and Acting CAO. On November 5th, the Protective Services team hosted a virtual town hall to update the community 2025 Place Glacier flood event. Town hall included participation from key partners, including Lowa Nation, Nakwakwa, Lower Statland Tribal Council, Stantec, University of Northern BC, Natural Resources Canada, Fisheries and Oceans Canada, and Ministry of Environment and Transit. Ministry of Transportation and Transit, sorry. This town hall provided an overview of Stantec's risk assessment and outlined next steps in emergency response planning. Next steps related to this response include a report from Stantec in Q1 2026, which will detail recommended emergency management measures for consideration. And if there's any questions on that, I also have Director Phillips here.
Any questions? We expressed to the community and there was a decent turnout. There were 20-something people on call. That the participation of both the provincial and federal and of Lillooet Nation's land and stewardship employees has been greatly appreciated by our team. And yeah, this is a sign of things to come. Go ahead.
Just something in your comments just triggered something for me was do we feel, I know that this is a big major concern, which is why it's getting this level of attention. Did the turnout sort of, does that represent the vast majority of the potentially affected party? Like, I'm just trying to understand if we have more comms work to, or more work to do to bring attention to this, like what the next step would be and like, do you have any ideas? Was that half the people, all the people that may be affected or?
I'll let Director Phillips,
Yeah, sure.
it's much more closely aligned.
Yeah, thanks for the question. We did have fairly good turnout for the town hall, and we've shared it on our website. And I know in the 2024 event, we were going door to door to making sure that everyone understood that this was taking place. So I think they are keeping their eyes on this. And I know with this is the video is and the town hall is posted online, and so it continues to be available to anyone who'd like to see it. And I know I've received several phone calls from community saying we appreciate it, and I know they're talking about it. So I feel quite comfortable that the message is out there and they are watching this.
So just the next from that is that when, I know this isn't something where it's an interesting place to occupy, there's this risk, but there's not, there's not other steps that are taken in some other places. When property changes hands and so on, I just want to make sure that this is like, that my concern is that everybody that needs to know that this risk exists and what the potential response is should know. So how do we, have you thought about that? Is that a risk of, property changing hands, new property owners? Like, how do we ensure that this information, as it continues to be developed, gets to where it needs to be? Or is it not that level of concern at this point?
Through the chair. I don't want to speak specifics to what building and planning has done, maybe information, but I know we've been in communication with our advisors, and we are making sure that all the hazard reports are posted on our website, so they are publicly accessible, anyone. And I believe that I know that our building and planning department has been making sure that the notices related to that property do reference to the hazards in the area. I don't know.
Yes, thank you. So through the chair, I can add that like our building permit process would be capturing all hazards, new and sort of past, in that we require like a geotechnical assessment as part of any building permit process. Unless a property owner were to come in and seek a letter of comfort, we wouldn't necessarily have a way of sharing that information with just a sale of the property. Lots of people do request information when they are interested in a property, so that does provide an opportunity for planning and building staff to share what's relevant to a certain area.
Okay. Motion to receive the report. By Director Stoner, second by Director Herbert. Go ahead.
It's interesting how all these reports kind of hang together, like the work we do to get good policy and then how it's applied. I think it's important to note. So thanks.
Thank you. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Our next is a direction request regarding an ALC subdivision application from Stephen and Robin Black of Electoral Area C.
Yeah. Sorry. Ms. Katernia was joining.
Hello.
Hi.
I think we can hear you.
Oh, okay. Hi, directors. Good to see everyone. So I'm a planner analyst with the SLRD, and this application is in the agricultural land reserve. It concerns 3 adjacent lots. 2 of the lots are quite large, so 30 and 22 hectares, and one of the lots is on the smaller side and does not currently have legal easement access. Given that the lots are adjacent and that the applicant is not seeking to create additional lots, the proposed subdivision would be compliant with the zoning bylaw, even if the minimum parcel size of 16 hectares was not met. That said, the proposed new subdivision will not have any lots smaller than 16 hectares. This application was presented to the Area C Agricultural Advisory Committee as per the previous board resolution, and they made a resolution to support the proposed subdivision as it is likely to improve the suitability of the smaller parcel for farming. that basically sums up this application. Please let me know if you have any questions.
Okay, questions?
No, there's no questions. I would like to move option one.
Okay, you have a question?
Yeah, I just wanting to understand, like right now, this is functioning as one parcel. If it's subdivided, does it not make it easier to separate ownership? And then it would be functioning as effectively two smaller parcels, notwithstanding the subdivision.
That's the purpose of this. To separate them into two separate ownerships. But both will still be functioning PLC land.
That's,
Am I wrong?
I think all they're trying to do is adjust the lot lines to make it more accessible for the small lot, because right now the small lot does not have access to Pemberton Meadows Road. So by adjusting the lot lines, then that allows that parcel to have access to Pemberton Meadows Road, which makes it better for farming, because now you can access it off the road.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So, and this is where maybe I'm looking for clarification, so. Maybe my misunderstanding is that's only an issue, like if it's the single owner, I thought you could sort of put the access, because it's all there, so it doesn't matter. This only becomes an issue if you want to have different ownership of different parcels, that's the only time, and so this is really when we want separate owners, possibly more housing than, and these things.
Well, I would
Let's
think.
go to,
Oh,
let's go to Anna.
okay.
Thank you. Through the chair. So another issue with the smaller parcel, not only is it landlocked, but a good portion of it is a treed and mountain slope area. So a big portion of it currently is not as farmable. In addition to that, it is about 8 hectares and the minimum parcel size is 16 hectares. And our policies generally do support larger lots, as larger lots are considered better for farming. So this adjustment of lot lines kind of addresses both problems. It provides more land that's suitable for farming on that third lot. And it also creates a legal and easy and short access. So if there was, let's say, instead an easement, it would be a very long road that would have to reach that back parcel, and that would be also taking away from farmable land, which is something the AAC brought up as well.
But just to make sure I understand, but the current state is it's one owner, so it's all one parcel, there isn't an issue of parcel size or anything, because it's all sort of one owner. Access is not an issue because it's all one owner. This only becomes an issue when you want to have multiple owners, is that correct?
Yeah, through the chair. So the applicant does not explicitly state that they're intending to sell, but yes, if they did sell any one of their 3 parcels, this could become an issue with access and farming as well.
Go ahead, Claire.
Through the chair, to clarify, there are 3 existing parcels and there will be 3 parcels at the end of this subdivision. The application is just to change where the lot lines lie, and they are still within the 16 hectare recommend, like within our zoning. So we're the 3 parcels going in and 3 parcels going out is still being maintained. Is that
Everyone clear? Go ahead.
I think that Paula has a question.
Oh, go ahead.
I just wanted to say, I think that subdivision within the ALC land is usually quite prohibitive, but this one seems to make sense because you're actually making that last lot more farmable. With your building sightings too, where you have to have like any new development within 85 meters of the road, that would also ensure that there's more farmable land at the back. So I'm with Russell. I support this.
Yeah. Okay. Would anyone like to move it? Director Mack is moving option 1
Second.
and Director DeMare is moving it. Does anyone want to make any further comments? I don't see any comments. I will call the question. All in favor? Is there anyone opposed? Motion carries. Okay. And on forward. We're on 8.3. This is an information report regarding the update on the SLRD accessibility plan.
Veronica Reed, Project and Program Coordinator with the SLRD. So we will be doing annual updates on the accessibility plan. The current plan is 3 years, 2024 to 2027. We've made some pretty good progress through our 7 priorities. We're in regards to number 4 with the employment processes. We've done a free assessment on our disability management return to work program. And the next step in that process is we can apply for a grant to cover some of the recommendations they had in their report. So we've reviewed that with the human resources manager, and she's made some suggestions on what we would benefit from. We're going to look at applying for that $7,500 to implement that work. Grant funding is very limited. It's one of the items we can move forward on with some grant funding. We also did some training. Our last staff training was yesterday with Melissa Lyon. We had a $25,000 grant from Spark to cover that training, and we had the board training as well last month. We've received a lot of good feedback and a lot of information from staff that we will be going through. And along with that grant, she was also able to provide us with some draft surveys for public and for staff. So we'll look to release those in 2026 and build a platform for feedback from the public to shape the next plan. We've also been working a lot on collaboration with District of Squamish and Whistler and the Village of Pemberton and hopefully Lillooet soon. And a municipal group as well with across the province that we meet monthly. And we have a meeting next month where we're going to discuss how to approach the province for more grant funding, because that seems to be a stuck point for everyone on this work. So I hope my next update, I have some really good news, but and then what we'll have to look into is possibly requesting some funding in the budget for the audits. That's something we can't cover. So the Pemberton Transfer Station and then the SLRD processes, which is, you know, 1 paragraph, but quite a lot of things, as we know, after the training. So how we engage all of our services with the public. And there's a possibility that community works funds might be available for the transfer station, but it wouldn't be applicable for the SLRD audit of our systems. So we're gonna have to look to find funding for that in 2026.
Those are awesome. Any questions? Go ahead.
Comment. I just want to thank you, and I look forward to working with you in Lillooet because, you know, I went back to Lillooet and of course, I'm looking at all our accessibility and ways that we can improve and things that we have improved. And sometimes it's just by, you know, somebody saying something that says, oh, okay, well, this is an issue. And I hadn't looked at it like it was an issue, but it was an issue. We've, you know, and we fixed it. I enjoyed listening to Melissa last time. And when I left, one of the things that she had said was this volunteer program called Be My Eyes. And so I went home and I signed up for it. And because that one really moved me. I thought, you know, how hard would that be just to do everyday things, you know? And maybe it's just looking at a recipe or like she said, you know, preparing a table and you just don't know if it looks right. So I really thought that was a good one. So thank you. And again, I look forward to working with you.
Oh my God, thank you. Anyone else? All right. I look forward to successful grant applications in the new year. You have a motion to receive the information, Director Herford, seconded by Director DeMare. Comment? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. We're now on an information report regarding the SLRD Agricultural Emergency Plan. And we have Mark Phillips here and Mike Iska. Over to you.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you very much, Board. Mark Phillips, Director of Protective Services. I will be handing it over to Mike Fluska, our Emergency Program Coordinator, to present.
Good afternoon, Chair. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. My name is Mike Fusca, and I'm the SLRD's Emergency Program Manager. Today I'm presenting this information report that describes the completion of our SLRD Agriculture Emergency Plan project. This report was funded by the Agriculture Investment Foundation of BC and was supported by a contract team with Upland Agriculture Consulting Limited. The project had three major components. The first was the development of the Agriculture Emergency Plan itself, which included resources for our Emergency Operations Center and a long-term framework for enhancing agricultural resiliency. The second component was a contact list of commercial farms and smallholders in the SLRD. And the third component was a public-facing disaster preparedness and application and education materials for farmers, which are now hosted on our SLRD website. Throughout this project, we hosted workshops and interviews with farmers in the SLRD to understand their emergency preparedness needs and also develop relationships that will help us during all phases of emergency response. We also worked with the BC Ministry of Agriculture to receive Emergency Operations Center training for our staff. The project activities are now complete and staff will submit final reporting to the Agriculture Investment Foundation in January. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions the board may have.
Any questions? Go ahead.
Thank you. Thanks for the report. I know I attended the meeting. It seems like a long time ago that we did an Area B and we invited the farmers. Someone from Upland Consulting was there. It wasn't a great turnout. Now I'm looking at the 65 farms who volunteered information added to our contact list. And so far we have 117 farming operations. So that, you know, and I recognize that the farmers have to put their hands up to participate in this. Is that where we're at? Is that where we're just gonna sit? Are we doing any more for outreach? Like, I know following the workshop in Area B, there was some talk about following up with some key farms that weren't represented there. Was that part of the work that happened or?
Mike Kuska, do you want to go ahead first tonight?
Yeah, so through the chair, that figure of 117 farms, that was what was reported to Stats Canada in 2021. Of those 117, 95 were what we could find on published maps, lists, and inventories. And then of those 95, 65 were those that opted in to provide their information to the SLRD into our database. So that's how the numbers break down. Our hope is that as our public education materials become more widely known throughout the SLRD, we will have
Well, that mine's turned on.
Timely.
Congratulations, bro.
Yeah,
through the chair, our hope is that as those public education materials become more widely known throughout the SLRD, and especially as farmers in the SLRD register for the province's premises ID program, that will help both us and the province identify more of these 117 that were identified by Stats Canada in 2021.
Just as a follow-up, I think on that premises ID program, which I was trying to promote, I think at the time of the workshop, we had one in Area B, and I thought, ooh, that's abysmal. We're still not doing very well in that area, I don't think. Can we do more through Lillooet Agriculture and Food or something like that? How can we help this? I'm saying as the Area B director, this is really important, and I need those farmers to be part of this. And can I help?
Through the chair, the easiest way to help would be to share the link to our agriculture website page. And the first link on that is to register for the Premises ID program. So for those who don't know, Premises ID, it's that's how the province captures information about farms that exist in the SLRD, across the province. And during emergencies, we reach out to the Ministry of Agriculture, and using the Premises ID program, they give us an up-to-date inventory of who would be within the impacted area, say for a wildfire. But the agriculture preparedness webpage at our SLRD webpage That's where farmers will find information about premises ID. It's where they'll find the education materials. There's a really great video in there for folks to watch that staff would encourage. And that's how we're going to make traction on this. Thank you.
Thank you, then what I've been doing is I'm on the right track. I'm in alignment with what you're trying to do. Okay.
That's good. I just, to the chair, in terms of this project, this was one of the learnings from 2023 that we clearly needed to do some work in this area, and through Mike Fusca's leadership, we now have a solid foundation, and so we move this work forward. In terms of continuing to share this great work and the resources and kind of the next steps, Mike and Patricia have been working on a communication plan that will follow this meeting and will include working through the agricultural advisory committees, social media, and other tools. So it will be hopefully, going up further, and would appreciate any support to get that message out.
Thank you.
Okay, you have a question.
Yeah, just a comment, not a question.
That's fine.
Thank you for all the work on this. It was really good. I did go onto the webpage and watch the video, nice little video, and lots of information in there. Excellent work by everybody involved. And it's good to hear that we're gonna start promoting it on social media and get it out even further. I'll also share it. Thank you.
Okay. Someone like to move receipt of the information? Moved by Director Fattengill, second by Director Richmond. Comments? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. I'm gonna call a 5-minute recess to stretch legs, etc., and we will be back at 2:03. Mike, are you leaving?
I gotta go deal with something, sorry.
We are gonna
Came up to the
review all the committees.
I know, I knew that would happen.
We are back, and we're at 8.5. The SLRD and Village of Pemberton bylaw enforcement agreement on the Pemberton Meadows field, and we have Gail Harris here to. Hello.
Hello, Gail Harris, Legislative Coordinator with the SLRD. Staff are presenting a bylaw enforcement agreement between the SLRD and the Village of Pemberton, whereby under sections 11 and 13 of the Community Charter, the SLRD consents to the enforcement of specific village bylaws over the Pemberton Meadows Field in Area C. The existing agreement, which has been in place since 2022, expires at the end of this year, and a draft agreement being proposed contains exactly the same provisions as the existing agreement, with the exception of an update to the length of the term to bring it in line with the new Recreation Service Financial Contribution Agreement, which also comes into effect on the 1st of January. So available for any questions.
Excellent, thank you. Any questions? Go ahead.
Does this create any problems for us?
A better question, please, Director.
Whatever. That's a good question.
Great question.
So just for clarity, I understand this about the enforcement, whose rules applies it, both sets of rules, or is Pemberton rules, or?
It will be the two Pemberton enforcement bylaws, because they manage the recreation service over that area. So this allows them to use their bylaws in an area outside their jurisdiction.
Go ahead.
I will move that we approve option 1.
Seconded by Director Stoner. Comments? Thank you for your work on this. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Motion carries.
Is it doing an additional that for that, or is
Yep,
that,
we need
or
the
those are
second
both
one.
together?
Yep,
Additional?
The second that?
yep. That the CAO be authorized to sign the bylaw enforcement agreement
Mhm.
on substantially the same terms,
So
et cetera,
moved.
et cetera.
Yeah.
Moved by Director Birch Jones, seconded by Director Herford. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay,
The standing.
now we are at fun stuff, 8.6, and this is the 2026 appointment to standing committees and external and other organizations. And direct your attention to the report in our package, which has an extensive table And I guess the easiest way to deal with this is, are there any amendments that anyone wants to make to the committees that they currently sit on? We can pass it as a block if everyone is happy. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm happy where I am, but my question is, are we? I guess it'd be to, I'm not sure if this is for the chair or for Director DeYoung, but how the pieces where we see Director Rainbow here, are they just, do they default to the alternate? Should we as a group be making interim pieces to help support?
That's a good question. Each terms of reference will dictate whether it's automatically defaulting to the alternate. In many cases, if the EAD is unable to attend, it does not default to their alternate.
It might default to, like, some of these have an alternate explicitly named and it would go to there.
That's exactly right.
Okay, so. Okay, I think that's too complex to get further than that, so that's fine, thank you.
For sure.
That it's complicated is enough to
Yes.
scare me off being concerned about that, but if there's a way I can support with that, I'm happy to.
That's right. Any other questions? Director Burch Jones, go ahead.
Just, I'd love to be a part of the Fraser Basin Council, not necessarily the larger group, but it's just that I am on the Thompson Regional Committee. With Sal as an alternate, but we very much are focused on the Shuswap watershed. Not very much about the Fraser River and the Fraser Basin. I just feel, I'd like to participate on that larger, so we've got Jack Crompton and Tony Rainbow here. And we are a long way from the Fraser River.
How long have you been on that committee? Or not committee, council?
On that council, yeah, probably 3 years. It's a 6-year max term.
Right.
And I committed a lot of time to it. I go 4 times a year and I'd like to finish the term.
By all means, yeah, of course.
We could move you into the alternate role, though.
Is that what Director Rainbow does?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, but he's not here. That doesn't feel like a very polite thing to be doing.
I spoke with Director Rainbow and not about that specific move, but I feel fairly confident that he wouldn't have a problem with that.
He hasn't been able to attend. I had to miss one time and he wasn't able to attend, so. I think.
Yeah. And if he really felt strongly that he wants to remain the alternate, we could switch it at a future meeting.
Okay.
But I feel comfortable doing that now. Chris, go ahead.
Just for clarity, the Fraser Basin actually does deal with a fairly large, not just the river, so it does.
I know.
So just make sure I'm correct.
Oh, yeah, I mean.
It's a big deal.
We even thought about changing our name.
Yes. Which might not be a bad idea.
We decided against it. Should have been on the board when we decided.
Marvin, go ahead.
Sorry, I just caught this, the Sea to Sky Regional Transit Committee has an appointment for areas C and D, and that makes good sense, but then how do you, how are we? It seems odd to me, like, are we
That's weird.
just, yeah, what is that? So then the chair should be there?
Well,
Or
this is
we all directors appointed there through this board, or is this implying that I'm on that committee because that's an appointment from the municipality, which hasn't happened at the municipal level? So what is
I
that?
hear your question, and I'm gonna turn it over to Kristen to, let's get some clarity based on the terms of reference, because the MOU states who sits on that committee. Right?
Yeah, thanks. I think for quite a few number of years at this table, it's just been the appointment of Area C and Area D. And the understanding is that municipalities are electing or appointing their own representatives.
But then I'm not actually on that committee. Cause I would be, like, this is a really good point. This should reflect that the chair, although maybe a future chair of this board has zero interest, could be from Area A and have zero interest in the Sea to Sky Regional Transit Committee, and therefore it wouldn't be a direct appointment.
I guess just the terms of reference, this would be interesting to me because I've been participating in those meetings and I have not been appointed by my council.
Yeah,
Which is, maybe that's an oversight on the municipal side, but I don't know if that's the same for others that are participating in their capacity that way.
Yeah.
And maybe just had assumed that that was part of, done through this body, so
yeah.
I would like to, we don't seem to be operating.
Why don't we
like this.
strike this from this list and then come back to a future meeting with clarity about how that appointment is reflected in our minutes?
Okay, and just as,
And I wanna go to Jenna.
sorry, okay, I just wanted to know if other municipalities, so say Whistler, make an appointment to this through their municipal like appointments. You know, the thing that would likely happen annually.
I think you expect the mayor to show up.
Like,
We did in Squamish the first year, but we haven't carried that through. But my response to you, Chair, was gonna be, even if the chair is from a different region that is not directly impacted by transit, I would assume that the chair acting on behalf of the organization
Yes,
should still.
yes,
And so, I appreciate your direction that this come back at another time, for review, but I do agree that the chair, no matter who it is.
Yeah.
Should be representing the SLRD in that conversation.
Yeah, it's just an interesting conversation, because then why am I there? Why have I done all this work for the last 8 years? At the time, I was appointed by Whistler because Jack was not. That's why. Okay. So, removing that line, are there any other amendments to this list of appointments that anyone wishes to make at this time? No one?
Do we have the government to government in the north here? Or is that a different?
well, sorry, I meant to move what was left with the change that Director Bridge Jones be the is alternate for
To
the
Fraser Basin.
Fraser Basin Council.
Not rushing anyone. Vivian, you've got time.
Thank you. And so I didn't ask if you wanted to step into the library or Fraser Basin, okay? I didn't think
I
so.
like everything the way it is.
Right.
Mary? Any other gaps? Anything from staff's perspective? No? Okay. I don't see anything else. So
I'll second the motion.
you're moving it with the
With-
Fraser Basin amendment
Yeah, and
and
the
with the Sea to
transit,
Sky struck with a resolution to come back with a discussion.
background or something like that.
Okay. With that, I have it moved and seconded. All in favor? Is there anyone opposed? Motion carries.
Of course, I see something now.
I'm happy to.
I see the Northern Statlium SLRD Intergovernmental Relations Working Group, so I should be on that.
Yeah.
And then we'll just put your name in as re-elected as the chair.
Yeah, the idea is to go through the list of 2025 and just reappoint as it was, because there's two different
Got it,
tables.
okay.
Yeah, so there's all the blanks in the 2026 just to be filled
Thank
in
you.
by staff. Okey doke, let's move on to board meeting calendar and office closure. And oh, are you gonna speak to No, go ahead.
Staff are just available for questions. This brings your 2026 calendar for all regular board and committee of the whole meetings.
Right. And my request is that we do schedule an August meeting with the intention to cancel it should we not need it. But given that the gap from July meeting to UBCM is earlier this year. And it would mean that our regional district meeting is not till the end of September. So most of the work that we prepare for going into UBCM would have to take place in July, and that feels really early. I would like us to hold August as a regular meeting, so that we can deal with. Also, it puts a big gap in our workload for staff to have almost 2 months of no meeting. So nothing, I mean, lots gets done, but it puts a huge burden on our September meeting to put off a lot. And if we don't have anything for the agenda, or if it feels light, we can cancel it in advance. And also, we're also going into an election, so it puts a tremendous strain on September.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Question? Or comment?
Yeah, a comment. I would like to actually propose changing the September meetings to the week before UBCM. So that would be on the 9th and 10th. And I realize there's an EAD in there, but I just find that going to UBCM, taking all that information in, and then, Monday and Tuesday having such a heavy load is really a lot. And I think that I really liked it this year where we had SLRD before UBCM the week before. It also gives us some time to just wrap up any loose ends with UBCM, and because if we haven't had a meeting in August, you're right, that's quite a long gap. So moving it beforehand, I think, would be really beneficial.
Okay, I hear you. I would counter, what if we propose a meeting and it would be considered a special meeting of the board that week prior to UBCM, but not to deal with bylaws and variances and whatever, but to deal with the business of UBCM. So a prep meeting for UBCM that would be held before we go to convention. But the only item on it would be UBCM.
But then we still come back.
But then we still come back at the end of September, and then we can deal with the rest of the business of the regional district.
Just really brutal after.
Okay, the other idea that we've had is we arrive in Vancouver Monday morning prior to convention starts and hold a board meeting in advance of attending our convention.
Why wouldn't we just move the SLRD meeting to the 9th and 10th?
That would be, I think that puts way too much on staff between EAD. So from the EAD meeting, all of that work flows through to the board, and they could not do that in a week. Is my understanding from staff. I'm happy for staff to correct me if any of this. I do. Yeah, and then, so then we're going from September to November with no meeting.
And an election.
With an election in the middle.
You still have October.
Oh, sorry, but that's
October
the
28th,
meeting, so it is anyway, we
Was that
could do
the
it.
Inaugural meeting?
No,
Not
the
yet.
inaugural meeting is in November.
Oh, November, right.
The election is 17th, right?
I think so.
October the 17th, yeah.
Yeah.
So they got 28th and 29th.
Oh.
Yeah, that's when,
How does that happen
It happens sometimes.
because you can't be sworn in until November.
with the old board? Exactly. So it's truly,
So we have a 28th, 29th meeting, like,
yeah.
even if we don't get in.
Yes.
Awkward.
Oh my God.
Go ahead.
Sorry, the motion you made was to have a meeting in August, but the rest of this has specific dates. So were you suggesting that we schedule our standard 2 days in the like, are we talking 26, 27 of August? Or
That would be my
is that-
intention.
so the full meeting, and then we can cancel some of or all of that, should we not need it, is what you're thinking?
Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify. Okay, likely to see at least one alternate from Squamish. Just for the record, you're likely to see an alternate from Squamish, at least one.
That's fine. We're all welcome to take vacation, just don't do it 3 meetings in a row.
So your proposal is as laid out here by staff with just the addition of meeting in August on the 26th, 27th,
Mhm.
the 4th Wednesday and so on.
Mhm. Maybe we're dealing with the UVCM work at that 26, 27. Cause it's substantively ready by then. Without changing the burden of the September meeting to before UVCM. Go ahead.
Not to speak on Director Hopple, but I think one of the concerns that she had was just like the wait that it takes to recover from UBCM to then go into a full week of board meetings following.
That's what
I did not hear you say that.
Including.
Oh, sorry, I just meant, yeah, like, thank you.
But I think that is just the flow of September. September is a tiring month.
It's really exhausting, and I just really like the way that it flowed this year with us doing SLRD before UBC. Really well done.
Could you not move the September meeting to the 30th and 1st of October?
No, because they have to take place in the month. I mean, we can do anything we want, but it feels strange to do that.
I think just leave it where it is.
September.
Man up.
Thank you, Alex.
Don't go to John's farm here.
You know you're not going to UBCM, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I sort of feel the same.
Anyone?
So just last question, if I can.
Yeah.
We do have the ability to call a special meeting if we need to,
Yes.
outside of this schedule. This is
Yes.
just for, not just for transparency, but transparency is the goal with this, so. Whether we put the August in and cancel it, or whether we leave it blank and and just with the knowledge, we may need to add a special there, like, is that not?
I don't like that as much. It feels more onerous to add a 2-day board
Than to
meeting
like-
than to have it and
Okay.
delete it. I feel strongly about that, having gone through the special meeting process in our procedures bylaw. Far easier to have it and cancel it.
And we do have the ability, should we not get the UBCM prep side, I get that it's a 2-part equation, the before and the after.
Yeah.
The after is gonna be hard, we can see it coming, maybe that helps, but we can add a special if we need to touch base
Yeah.
again on the
Yeah.
10th or whatever makes sense.
Yeah.
So, okay, I'm happy to support.
Okay. Do you have clarity?
Thank you. I do. I think it's just as set out in the agenda, crossing out the except for August, August. So it's just except for December.
Yeah. Okay. And the other thing I wanted to ask is we made a change last year to change the start time of and I know that this is probably gonna be dealt with on the agenda of the Sea to Sky Regional Hospital District, but moving our start time for Committee of the Whole to 9 AM. I think everyone likes that.
Yes.
And keeping our start time of this meeting at 10:30, with moving Sea to Sky Regional Hospital District to prior to that, gives everyone from the north time to get here. I just wanted to let anyone that doesn't feel that the timing is working, everyone's feeling comfortable with our extension to finishing our meeting by 4 PM, and not rushing through things, but also not leaving too much for Thursdays. Everyone's good with that? Great. Okay, so with that, any final comment? Okay, I'll go ahead.
Well, just want to say thank you to the CAO and chair, and hopefully I'm not jinxing things, but it feels like our agendas have been tightening up. And I appreciate that, and that'll help with some of the things we've been talking about.
Yeah, nice work. There we go.
Yeah, good one. Want to give kudos.
Okay, all in favor? Is there anyone opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
That was both of them.
Yeah, it was all of it, the whole thing. Okay. The wording of my chair's verbal report outline here is a little bit awkward. I'm gonna start with Director Rainbow. For transparency's sake, Director Rainbow. I have spoken with him about this and he knows that I will be having this conversation with you here in public today. Director Rainbow has been injured. He has had his alternate director attend in his place for October meeting and November meeting. He likely will not return for December. I therefore request from the board a resolution to support a medical leave up to 6 months for Director Rainbow to be revisited should he not be able to return at the.
Yep.
I want to say it for the record, March meeting. In the event that he cannot, we will have another discussion at that time. This is in line with the Local Government Act because otherwise he would be disqualified from holding office for the remainder of the term. We do not want that. I want Tony to have the time and space to go through his treatments and return when he is ready.
The point of 30, I think it's the April meeting.
Thank you.
Yeah, so returning to the April meeting.
Yeah. Question?
Well, I'm just ready to move or second or.
Moved by Director Herford, seconded by Director Birch Jones. And do I need any language around no remuneration penalties? There was language in, I wish I had the language, I'm sorry. You have the language
It was
that includes the.
leave of the regional board be granted to Director Rainbow in respect of his absence from 3 or more consecutive meetings of the regional board due to an illness or injury up to, we had December 31st, but up to whatever.
6 months. Yeah, so April
So up to,
Sorry, can we say April?
30th.
Is he back to the April meeting?
We don't know, but
Okay, so
that's
up
the
to April
leave would be-
30th.
Yeah.
The 6 months would be inclusive of the March meeting, so he'd be back for the April meeting at 6 months.
So up to March.
Yeah.
31st.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Thank you. So we don't need any more details on that. Great. And anything else from anyone else? Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor? Is there anyone opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Director DeJong, for stepping in as alternate during this time. We appreciate your participation and I know how challenging this can be, and so you've really stepped up and we appreciate it. Okay, Sea to Sky Regional Transit update. Not really much to update. I held that in there as a placeholder. We had our meeting at UBCM. I've already reported back on that. We have heard the budget. No, we have not heard. We have heard from the federal government that there is budget to support regional transit services in the federal budget, largely due to capital costs, but we don't have much detail as to how that will flow down to the Sea to Sky. However, let's continue to advocate for that to support our need here. So that is my update there. And then Director Stoner asked me to attend a session that was hosted by Capilano College or Capilano University, and it was in Squamish at Capilano University. 30 participants from Israel were here to visit Vancouver. This is an ongoing and annual trip of this study group from El Galil. They attend a variety of things in Vancouver. And then this year and last year, they had the opportunity to travel up to Squamish, to the Sea to Sky gondola, and to hear from all kinds of people around Squamish to experience what regional governance looks like. And they were really excited to hear about how Capilano University has contributed to the community and through their economic development opportunities. The library director, Hilary Bloom, was also there, and she added a lot of context around the community of Squamish and the growth of the community of Squamish. They saw a lot of parallels between our region and their communities, and it's largely a tourism-based region in Israel, which is fascinating, because it certainly opened my mind to a place that I've never been or considered visiting, but now I would like to. And so I was just really honored. Thank you, Jenna, for asking me to step in, and I was pleased to be there to speak to regional governance. It was really interesting. And that is my verbal report. I also attended this week Housing Central, which is the conference hosted by the BC Nonprofit Housing Association. There were 1,800 attendees from local governments, nonprofit housing associations and societies. There were financial experts. There were housing provider solutions in the trade show. It was a fascinating convention. Not a lot of representation from in the people that I spoke with in kind of rural and agricultural housing solutions. It was much more geared towards nonprofit housing in urban areas. However, there are certainly lots of really interesting takeaways on how we fund housing, how we consider the form of housing in municipalities. And I was really glad to attend. So I'm tired, but I'm happy to have gone for 2 of the 3 days. So that is my report. And I will now ask for a motion to receive. Moved by Director Stoner, second by Director Mack. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. All right. We now have correspondence for action. There's a letter requesting support from the Howe Sound Biosphere Region Initiative Society regarding property submission to Canadian Protected and Conserved Areas database. And the letter is in our package. Does anyone have any questions? Go ahead.
Just wondering about compatibility or sort of where we are in terms of our guide, our Truth and Reconciliation Guide, and I know Squamish Nation has been quite involved in the biosphere region, but as we're sort of declaring these sorts of things, I wonder if we've done sort of what we need to be doing in that respect.
It's a great question that I would have to refer to staff and have them come back to us, and I don't think we have considered that question.
Sorry, I missed it.
So this is, I guess, consenting to having some of our existing, I guess, park areas designated in a particular way. It doesn't restrict zoning and so on, but I just wonder in the context of our Truth and Reconciliation Guide and so on, if we're sort of doing everything we need to do. I know Squamish Nation is quite involved or has been quite involved in the biosphere region, so hoping sort of all taken care of, but asking a question.
Yeah, I haven't been involved with this specific one, but I know Heather's been involved, so I believe Heather's been supportive of it, so I would assume that Heather's on top of that piece of it. And working with planning as well.
Or you would hope the Howe Sound Biosphere Region Initiative people will have already done that, right?
Yeah.
Or would do it.
The Squamish Nation sits on their board.
So, I mean, we could check that. I think it's a brilliant question. But I would hope that's been done.
I would think so.
And I think just assuring that it has been done, and then we can proceed. I'd like
So
to
we
see a
could
lot
defer
more.
this to next month. If you want to write the letter of support, go ahead.
I just wonder if we could just add at the end, subject to agreement from Squamish Nation.
Sure. Go ahead, Chris.
Well, these areas aren't necessarily in Squamish Nation, they're regions, so it could be other nations in the SLRD, I think, so that's why.
This is Britannia Beach.
Oh, sorry. I missed that.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
so this is only Squamish Nation.
But I'm not sure it should be our job to do that, to check with Squamish Nation.
Sorry, I'm not suggesting it is, that we write a response letter to House Sound Biosphere Initiative saying that we would support this so long as they receive support and approval.
Passing it back to them.
Yeah, so write the letter and give it on condition that they
do outreach,
respond back and do the outreach. Okay, everyone comfortable with that? Okay.
I really like this, and will this somehow, you know, be captured in our own climate action plan that we're tracking these things?
You mean designated within our regional growth strategy mapping?
Yeah.
I would think so. And I know they've been working directly with planning on this. So I just talking to Claire about it.
Okay. So we are going to write the letter of support. We will respond back that they are granted the letter of support. You want to ask Claire the question?
Were your ears burning?
They're burning.
I'm really happy and impressed about this Howe Sound Biosphere Region Initiative. And we talked about, is Squamish Nation involved in approving? Because we should check that before we go ahead and indicate our support, and we're assuming that they are. And we suggested subject to Squamish Nation approval. We thought staff might know already. But also my question was about, are we gonna track this in our own climate action? Is that going in our record? Report that had a red dot on it last time I saw.
Yes. Thank you, through the chair. Thank you for the questions. Claire Dewar, Senior Planner. So specifically to this submission piece, this is kind of like a follow-up part to a consent letter that the SLRD board has previously provided for this project. And SLRD planning staff has been working with the Howe Sound Biosphere Region Initiative to identify parcels that can contribute to this database.
Yes.
And the parcels that have been identified are SLRD owned parcels that are zoned park and open space in Britannia Beach. So there's 5 parcels that have been identified. And the Howe Sound Biosphere Region Initiative does work closely with Squamish Nation. I don't know specifically if these parcels have been put to Squamish Nation. I know those organizations work quite closely, and I guess I'm just reminding the board that we have provided consent to this project. This ask is directly specific to these 5 parcels, and really my understanding is that we're confirming that these parcels do meet the criteria as protected areas, which they meet our zoning. And they're also owned by the SLRD, so we anticipate those being held as conservation lands in perpetuity. And then specific, or back to the second question around how we can connect this in with our climate action goals and RGS indicators and monitoring. We have flagged this as part of the RGS indicator monitoring project that is currently underway. It won't be captured in this round of indicators, but we have flagged it as a potential indicator to add to the goal around protected areas, as that goal and the indicators connected to that goal have been hard to have data connected to. So this and building out this database could be super helpful, with the caveat that right now we're just looking at a few parcels in Howe Sound. So how are we capturing the broader SLRD? But I do anticipate that this work and just local governments in general contributing to this conservation database will grow, and then when we come back with the RGS indicator monitoring in 2 to 5 years, we could have some really great information to be captured now. Let's do that. Okay.
I'd like to talk a lot more about this, but that's good for now. Thank you.
Okay. No,
We didn't, we just had the subject to added. Right?
so moved by Director Stoner, seconded by Director Birch Jones.
Is that just for the amendment? Or
Or
the motion as amended?
the motion as amended, because it wasn't on the floor.
Okay.
And any other comments? All in favor? Anyone opposed, motion carries. Thank you. Okay, a request for support from Lillooet Lake Estates regarding the Catalina Creek service fees. And this is a recommendation or a request, come on. You know more.
Yeah, I just thought I would speak to this and provide a bit of background and some additional context. Just to start, the SLRD is not a taxing authority. Unlike a municipality, when we requisition funds from taxpayers, we do so through the province. And we submit our full requisition details and they handle the collection of taxes from individual property owners. To do this work, the province charges us 5.25% collection fee. We have investigated the potential of the SLRD becoming a taxing authority and handling collections ourselves. That is not feasible due to the cost and how complex it would be to collect from individual property owners. However, we have a unique situation with the Catalina Creek service. The Catalina Creek service is actually only made up of 2 individual BC assessment folios. And as I'm sure you're all very aware, the high cost of this project has a large cost to the community. So when we requisitioned them last year, they raised the concern of how expensive that 5.25% fee is to the community to essentially have BC Assessments deliver a check from Lillooet Lake Estates to the SLRD. So we've been looking and discussing a potential solution to this problem. And what we've come up with is a potential cost recovery agreement. It would essentially allow Lillooet Lake Estates or the property owners within that service to provide funds required for the service upfront to the SLRD directly. Obviously, we haven't developed this agreement yet, but what I anticipate it would look like is we would require funds prior to approval of our budget. That would allow us to still requisition funds if funds weren't received. And the onus would be on Lillooet Lake Estates to decide how much they want to pay, if they want to pay. And if we haven't received payment from them, then we would continue to requisition through the province and they'd be subject to that 5.25% fee. So just a bit of context too, like in last year, I think that fee was close to $10,000 and I anticipate it to be that, if not higher, in the 15 range annually for the next 30 years. So that can add up pretty quick. So I think this is a creative solution to a unique problem within the SLRD.
Yeah, so I would like to make a motion that we follow your advice and go through that process. Because like you say, over a 30-year period, this is a lot of money for just cutting a check. So anyways.
Okay, I'll go to question and then we'll get a second motion.
Yeah, I think this is really interesting and worth exploring. My concern is that I recognize that it's unlikely for it to cost the SLRD the 5.25%, the 10K or more annually to handle this portion of it, but the impact is likely larger than 0. So or do we feel that what's proposed, like I understand that it's saving the property owners and that's great, but is it offloading a portion of that to this organization, and should there be something in between, do you think, for processing that? Because I feel like most things have an impact that we're not talking about, so.
Yeah, I can speak to that. I think realistically with this work, the staff time would come with developing the agreement. I don't foresee it being that complicated. It's just essentially we would lay out that they have the option to pay up front, and we would have it as like an ongoing agreement with maybe some clauses if anything changed to the ownership that we could remove that agreement. But going forward, like, it would essentially be them paying us. And if we didn't receive that payment, it'd be a simple tweak to the financial plan prior to adoption to include that for requisition. I don't see that being much staff time or effort.
So the direction that you're seeking is whether this is worth pursuing, which is what, like, developing this, then it'll come back to us to look at the nuts and bolts of it.
Right, we've got to this potential solution, but we haven't done any work on the actual agreement. We first wanted LE to confirm that they were interested and then bring it to the board and have the board confirm that they wanted us to pursue it, and then we would look at actually developing the agreement.
And this letter represents both of those folios.
Both folios are owned by Lillooet Lake Estates. Yes.
How many other folios are like these? Are there others in the SLRD?
This is the only service where we have two unique folios. We do have some where the land is owned by under a single folio, but all the actual improvements are separate. So this is the only service we have in the SLRD where this type of agreement would make sense to enter into it with the taxpayers.
And what would be our explanation as to why we're offering this to this group of people, but to others, not to others who might request it? Is it just the fact that it works for us financially and it doesn't work in those other circumstances?
Yeah, as I've like mentioned, we've explored the costing of if we were to become a taxing authority and handle collections ourselves. And since we can't handle tax requisitions for a simple, like for an individual service, we'd have to do it for every single service. That's not financially feasible, and entering into an agreement where we had to have an agreement with 400,000 different property owners just isn't feasible. So this is really a unique service where we have only essentially one property owner, two folios, and a very large payment through the service. Like most of our other services where there's a small number of folios, it's also a very small cost, and that 5.25% fee isn't as significant as a cost to the community where we would explore an option like this.
Chris?
That took care of my questions.
Okay. So Director Mack has
Second.
offered to make the motion. I have a seconder. Any comments?
Sorry, what is the motion?
The motion is to support staff doing and coming back with a report. No,
Agreement. Enter into a cost recovery.
coming back with the agreement that would be presented to the homeowners association. Yeah. That their heading.
Yes.
Anyone else?
Very good idea.
Okay. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Motion carries.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we have a letter from a Pemberton resident requesting coordinated action regarding the ongoing issue of horses on Highway 99. I will share that I have a regular meeting with our MLA, Jeremy Valeriot, and our MP, Patrick Weiler. We have brought this issue up. They have also received these letters of request. We've heard this has been ongoing for several decades. It unfortunately results in very, very sad outcomes when the horses are hit, when the vehicles are involved. There's obviously property damage involved. I've talked with Minister of Environment, I've talked with Minister of Forests, I've talked with the Minister of Indigenous Affairs. I've talked with many different areas, RCMP over the years. We've talked with Lillooet Nation Leadership Council. And it is a very difficult situation. Let me be clear, these are not wild horses. These are horses that are getting out of their enclosure. As I understand from the most recent correspondence, the enclosure has been repaired and the horses are enclosed at this time. Do you want to?
Rodeo ground.
The rodeo grounds. Do you want to add anything?
No, I think that, I mean, we know we have no authority to enforce these things, but I think and I think the board is supportive of us advocating and collaborating with those agencies. So I don't know if there's a resolution that the board wants to make publicly.
I feel like we have no grounds or jurisdiction to make a resolution. I've been committed as the chair of this organization for several years to continue to advocate for the safe passage of this section of highway. But I don't really feel like there's much more. I'm not saying that we can't do anything. I'm not trying to pass any buck. I promise the communities, as has been indicated in the letter, we're not passing any buck. No one is. And so I don't really feel that there's any resolution that we can make that we wouldn't be doing in, it would be hollow. So, go ahead.
I've been involved with this situation for 20 years, right? And we've always advocated with every agency. And I think we just need to keep doing that.
Yeah.
The situation today is a lot better than it was a week ago or 2 weeks ago. So it's definitely moving in the right direction here. So if they can keep the horses, contained at the rodeo grounds, make sure they're getting fed properly, and that's the owner's responsibility. Then there might be light at the end of the tunnel, so to speak. The festival grounds are now fully fenced. So the horses have no reason to go there. So I think that, we're going in the right direction here, right at the moment.
I will also say, I've had recent discussions with ministry staff at Ministry of Transportation, and they've put up new signs on the highway. And this is also, I think, a really important reminder, not only for the safety of the horses, but for the safety of the drivers. That section of road is prone to black ice. It's prone to other wildlife darting out in between trees and houses. And slowing down on that section of highway is a really big, important reminder for everyone. And so I can't really stress this enough, that this is also about driver responsibility to slowing down through these areas. And that goes for other areas of Highway 99. I sound like a mom right now, but I'm feeling like no one is passing the buck or not taking this seriously. Go ahead.
I was ready to move receipt of this. I'll speak to it in a second.
Okay.
That's where we are.
Yeah.
I remember when I was working with Health Canada, Mount Currie really did not want that section of the road paved.
No.
They wanted people to be slowed down.
Yeah.
And for a while, tribal police were really on it, trying to help Mount Currie slow the traffic. There aren't any real calming sort of things in place. There's a lot of
Those are the calming.
The
All the bends.
Yeah,
definitely.
and poor lighting and all the reasons to
Correct.
slow down.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, the visibility is pretty crummy. And there's animals and people, there's homes there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah.
So we're not taking this lightly. Move receipt, Director Herford, seconded by Director Demare. Comments? Go ahead.
Just briefly, I think this, this is obviously a challenging issue to deal with. The core of the ask is to continue doing really what we're doing. Although rightly, the public often, is looking at, the results, the impact of these things. But I know that this issue's been taken seriously. I know that we have been playing we just heard for decades, working on this and in the appropriate role, which is advocating and trying to help coordinate and support those that are directly responsible and are taking action. So as much as I wish we had more to do here in some ways to impact this, that's why I'm moving receipt, and I'm taking this as someone asking us to do what we're doing. So I think receipt's the appropriate action is.
Okay. All in favor? Is there anyone opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we have a request from the Lillooet Friendship Society regarding the Canadian Bridge River Valley Community Food Bank support. And this is a request of $3,000.
Thank you.
Do you want to speak to?
Yeah, I can speak to it.
Run out.
I'd like to give a little background on this. This is the first time it's come to the board. Funding request like this for the food bank in Lillooet. And back when I was in Williams Lake, I did a lot of volunteer work with the Salvation Army, specifically with youth groups and with the food bank. Heavily involved with the food bank. So in February 2020, I won in a by-election. And right after that, we went into the COVID pandemic. And one of my thoughts was about food bank. And I went to a few of the key community leads and talked about it. Is there a need? And we came out of that saying, yes, there was. So I knew with the Salvation Army, everything had to be done correctly. And I approached Lillooet Food Bank, not knowing that they were part of the Lillooet Friendship Center, which is an Indigenous-led organization. And we worked through it, and they've been coming out once a month ever since. And they're still coming out. And you can see what they bring and everything else. And I can't say enough about them coming out for summer and winter. And I really think that this shows, lost my word, give me a sec. I think that this really shows that this partnership between the Lillooet Friendship Center and the Upper Bridge River Valley community has reconciliation in action. So I'll move the resolution.
Seconded by Director Crompton. Comments? Go ahead.
Yeah, I know we have some discussion about and our budgeting processes are improving and so on. This is one of those areas where I feel like there's an opportunity, because I do agree this sort of thing is really important. I would like to make sure, sort of as part of our annual planning, that we're purposefully setting aside enough funds for these sorts of things. And so having that, I think is something that we could do better as a board and being a bit more proactive in making sure these things have. Unfortunately, we know there's going to be a growing need for food banks and so on, and probably something, if no one else, like we're the only ones that might step in, and so we may have to. And so just look to our improving our processes and so on to make sure that these aren't just like, ad hoc or, can we do it? It's, we plan to do it and it's there.
Go ahead.
I was thinking when we were looking at I forget the proper name of it, the meeting schedule with the listing of all the tasks. I was thinking it would be helpful to have, like in September, a reminder about the Legion and the fact that we always make a donation for the Remembrance Day, at least, at the very least, for wreaths in at least 4 out of 4 of the electoral areas at a minimum. I know the municipalities do different things. But also the food bank is maybe another, maybe in October, it could just be a note there that we think about that at that point in time before Christmas, right? And it's probably gonna be the EAD, the way we've always been doing it, and we've always been as generous as we possibly can be, and that's probably, I can't imagine us taking funds from anywhere else, but I mean, we could think about it. At least, you know.
Yeah, for sure. And, I think that's part of the budget process and discussion is because we've got a request from the library in Squamish to sort of entrench some of the funding that we've been giving to Squamish Library from Area D, and just having that a little bit more predictable. And so I think you're spot on. It may actually be like a list of what have we always done at the EAD level. And then that request just sort of flows onto the budget process each year. Would give the rest of the board some clarity into how the decision is made to spend select funds, et cetera. Where those decisions are being made and why. And then, I encourage you to go and watch the EAD meetings or come and watch them from the gallery because all those discussions are had. So it's, but yeah, there may be a future director that no longer thinks we should be giving money to this or that or the other thing. And so, but that you can't fetter those for future decisions either. So it couldn't become a regular budget
Requirement, no, we couldn't do that, but we regularly do use discretionary funds in that way. And we know that and we plan on it.
Yeah. Should you decide to give money to the Lillooet Animal Society. Bernadette and all the cute kitties they have at home. Anyway, gotta talk.
They're doing really well.
Yes. Go ahead.
Well, I think we want to make sure that we don't handicap the EAD directors from putting their select funds, amenity funds, or the funds that are accrued for their areas
Yes,
into supporting the people that live in their areas.
totally.
To-
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so with that, we have it moved. Do we? Second? Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. All right, and our final correspondence for action is a request for assistance from the Furry Creek Community Association. This is in regards to an area where there have been some signs, there are photos in the letter, signs saying do not trespass. Do you have an update from bylaw or anything that we can consider at this point?
It's, I believe it's crown land.
Yeah.
With under hydro right away.
Right.
I don't know what jurisdiction we have in our regard.
Right.
But I maybe just referring it to staff and I can touch base with beside your Minister of Transportation.
Awesome.
I think it's just an eyesore, is that
No, I think it's a concern for privacy on the other side of where they're putting, because there's like trails up there. Go ahead, Vivian.
And it's more than that. It's a request for replacing it with a no parking sign, a sawhorse, and they want to prevent the parking. That's probably a little bit more than the SLRD wants to
Yeah,
venture into.
but I think we can just refer it to staff and.
That's
Is
not
that what you're
concerned to
doing
hide,
there?
pass it, yeah.
Receive the letter and refer. it to
Yeah,
staff?
I'm curious about this. I've seen that. I've actually wanted to go there. I'm like, oh, it's no trespassing. That doesn't look right on the GIS. So I do think referring it to staff would be great, but I do think it's interesting when someone takes it upon themselves to put a no trespassing sign on something that isn't there, either isn't theirs to control or is the public's to enjoy.
All over area.
You know, I think looking into that would be worthwhile, and I don't know that I'd go further than referring it to staff for.
Keep staff busy in area
follow-up.
B.
Because it is quite a.
Yeah.
I'll take that sign.
So I have it moved by
You want to sign.
and seconded by Director Demir. And go ahead.
Just for clarity, though, our expectation is just that staff would connect with MOTT and sort of pass it on to them. It's not that we're gonna take ownership of this.
To us with any kind of, unless they learn something that we can do something about, but this is, and I appreciate the work of the strata. I think Furry Creek Community Association is incredibly engaged in their area, and I think that there's a lot of really good work that goes on there, so it's useful getting these reports and being able to respond if we can. So with that, I'll call a question. All in favor? Is there anyone opposed? Motion carries. All right, is there any late business for the
Never
agenda.
drive
It
home.
hasn't already been.
This weekend.
Okay, is there any notice of motion from anyone? No? Okay. Well, we do recess at 3:09. And we will come back tomorrow for committee of the whole.